This. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live and we are, as Geno Brooks would say, in the building. Welcome to a conversation with, and I am your humble host, Floyd Marshall Jr. And today I am joined by a good brother that I had the absolute pleasure of meeting at the Meat Show Film Festival a few weeks back, Christopher D. Moore. Mr.
Yo,
Moore
yo.
is a multi-hyphenated artist, film producer, screenwriter, musician, and content creator. And you were originally from Atlanta. Did I get that right?
Yep,
And
originally.
residing
Yes, sir.
in
Originally based from
the
Los
great city of
Angeles.
Los Angeles. So, Mr. Brooks, or well, Mr. Moore, rather, I'm calling you Geno Brooks. Well, that ain't a bad thing. But Mr. Moore, welcome to a conversation with Sir. How are you?
Doing good, man. Life as well.
Good, good, good,
Life
good,
is real
good. So
good.
let's get into this. So
Yep.
the thing that I always ask my guests rather is how did you get started in the business?
Man, that's a good question. So I have been in creative writing for a while now. I've been started at poetry and literature arts in high school. That was 11th grade. Um, Rapping became kind of an art form, obviously by osmosis from Atlanta. So Goody Mob, Outkast, um, Ludacris, uh, Lil Jon. There's a whole bunch of artistic influences that I have from the music. Even Pastor Troy, if you really are from that South, you know what I'm talking about. But all these artists also did a version of storytelling in their music. So that kind of got me into like, how do I express myself using, musical form, like 16 bars and stuff like that. So poetry and raps kind of feel very similar. Also, another veteran, Tupac Shakur, made a book compilation called "A Rose That Grew from the Concrete," and I read a few of his stanzas and a few of his selections, and I was like, "Oh, okay, this is poetry. Nice." That led me to a music career from like 17 to like 22,
Mhm.
like touring, being on the radio, had radio spots. We were actually very busy, but we weren't lucrative.
Mm.
So it made me think about publishing and getting your masters and uh, registering with ASCAP or BMI or all those different uh, songwriting platforms so that you can get paid, or else you're just treating it like a hobby. And once I realized that we didn't have the business correct, I was like, well, let's do something that is in the entertainment business, but a lot more business oriented. Hence,
Mm.
TV producing or television producing. So I went to Savannah College of Art and Design in 2010, graduated 2014, and that gave me a well-rounded understanding of the TV and film business and some of the things that were missing elements of my music career. Help fill in the blanks.
Mhm.
So that then brought me to shoot a short film while I was in college in 2012. Didn't really take it on the festival route like some people had suggested that I should. I really just wanted to see what it felt like to record a short film over the course of like 2 weekends and see how my peers felt about it. So that turned into a success. I screened it in front of a few classes at my school and overwhelmingly got a good response. And then from there, once I graduated SCAD, moved out to Los Angeles. Basically, all I had was like room and board.
Mm.
Didn't have a car, had to sell everything back home. I moved out here with like 2 boxes and 2 suitcases. And it was like, okay, well, let's try to start from nowhere, right? Let's try to figure it out from here. And that was in 2015. And then met Geno in 2017, and all these different things just started to kind of avalanche into just a consistent career in creative writing. Now I script write, so
Hmm. Hmm.
everything.
So you're in Atlanta and you decide to move to LA. Now Atlanta was popping, at that time. So
Mm-hmm.
what made you decide to not, for lack of a better word, make your bones in Atlanta as opposed to moving out to LA? I mean, you had a home base in Atlanta, you knew people, you were known. but you sell everything and you take yourself and your two boxes and you move clear across the country to Los Angeles with just room and board. Why did you do that?
Well, it's that's a loaded question. There's about three reasons. First reason is I'm born and raised in the South. That can get old. The South is not the world. I've always ventured with my imagination to other destinations. So, with that being said, might as well take a trip somewhere other than Florida, Alabama, Carolinas, Tennessee. I'm just landlocked, right?
Hmm.
Second reason is as I was going and taking jobs at BET or Turner Studios as a PA to do what I do as creatively driven as that job is as a screenwriter, if I want to be represented or get an agent, you have to live in a certain area to be a part of those conversations.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, I can come out here every so often to have representation or just trust that my representation is doing the best for me, or you can put yourself in the best position possible to win. So, um, a lot of executives and a lot of higher ups above the lines, if you will, that I would speak to in a car ride or in a quick run to the store because they were hiring locals. I would ask them or tell them about my career and my journey. This is like the last year of my college career, so I was a senior, and I was just getting a lot of advice of like, if you want to be a screenwriter, you got to live in California or New York. Like
Hmm.
that's just where people are based. Third reason, Georgia is a right to work state, meaning they can pay you less than union average.
Hmm.
And when you understand that you're living in a state that, yes, it's half the income of a California resident, but your talent is still your talent, you should
Hmm.
probably fight for your right to get paid the most that you should be compensated for the job that you showed up for. So I wasn't cool with just taking, whatever Georgia executives were paying, which
Hmm.
they still pay low in comparison to other cities. So all that to say, hence why we're in a strike, right? Um, all that to say, coming out to LA was just a magnum opus, I think they call it, or like a mecca journey. If you really do believe in something, you have to step outside of your comfort zone and go to a place that is uncomfortable. And once you find yourself there, the real character of who you are as a person, your real dreams and aspirations will be shown right before you. And you have to figure out, are you going to go left or go right? Are you going to
Hmm.
be on the right side of history, or are you going to sell yourself out to a certain degree for things that you may not be like, may not be accustomed to? Like it's
Hmm.
not even something that you are, like you do. Like that's why a lot of people come out here and they get lost because
Hmm.
they come out here without an identity, and then whatever Hollywood throws at them, they take that as the identity.
Hmm.
And then when that thing moves on, they don't know how to pivot or find themselves all over again. So I've always been grounded in that. So I never felt like this was going to lose me in a sense, or I was going to get lost in the process. I just
Hmm.
figured I need to do something different. So let's take the time to do it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you say that about the executive saying, well, if you want to do a particular thing, that you have to move to LA, because I remember a couple of years ago being in a room on Clubhouse, and that's when Geno, Donna and Reed, a couple other people, everybody was basically on the platform because things were slowly opening up, and it's lady by the name of Danita Patterson, phenomenal, phenomenal, phenomenal. Geno knows her very well, and we were in a room, and she said, "Well, if you want to be in the center of things, you got to do one or two things. You got to be willing to always get on a plane to come out here, or you have to move here." And when she said that, I said, I'm flying to LA next year for the Micho Film Festival. And that was the first year that I actually flew out to that particular festival. And then I went back this year, and that's where we met. But it's so true that if you want to be in the action, you got to be in the action. You can't be on a periphery of the action. So let me ask you this. You decide to move to Los Angeles. You tell folk you going. What was that like? Because I know some people had some issues with you actually moving out there. Or did they?
Well, I'm gonna sound cliche because honestly, now there's a little backstory. I was with a partner at the time that our situation was dissolving. So from that standpoint, there were a few people that were kind of like, well, I don't know if that's the thing for you to do right now. But I'm an only child. I don't have immediate family. I know that sounds crazy because I do have cousins and aunts and people that will probably watch this like, what about me? No, you guys I see for sure. But being the only child, I come with a certain disposition to life. Like I don't have to check in with nobody. If my mom says it's cool, like that was probably the only person that was like, oh, my baby. But I'm like, Mom, like if you raise me well, then I should leave the nest. So I'm using her psychology against, her. But, I was like, honestly, if this is what I'm supposed to do, or if this is where I feel like I'm most happiest, I had a lot of people support me, and if they didn't, I didn't hear them. Like I'm set. When I'm set on something, it's hard moving me from that situation. So I was already like all in, have nothing to lose. I was at just a pivotal time in my life where it was a small window of opportunity, and there were things that lined up that had no connection with each other. So it was like, all right, is this a window of opportunity, or am I going to like overthink this and just stay where I'm at because it's comfortable? So might as well take a shot, take a gamble on yourself.
Yeah, and that is so true. I talk about that quite often, people being in a place where they're comfortable, and growth does not happen in comfort. It's just not. And, you could just take yourself, or anyone as an example, when you were growing up, when you were feeling those aches and pains as a kid growing into a teenager, that's because your body was growing. So growth is painful. And if, you plan on expanding and doing something different, you got to do something different in order to get something different. So you get to LA, get your 2 boxes. What happens? What happens when you hit the ground? Did you have a game plan? When you get to LA, what was the game plan? Did you hit the ground running? Had you already formulated a plan, or was it like, you know what, fucking, I'm flying by the seat of my pants. We just gonna see what happens. Had you made any connections before you went out to LA?
Yeah, so there's a very well-known actress by the name of Gail Dean. She's a good friend of mine. She's been on the Snowfall. She's been on Insecure. She's been on Atlanta. She was bubbling right around that same time. And she's the one who invited me out. Now, to get out here, I just had hustle, drive, determination, artistic background. If it's going to come to fruition, you have to put it into existence. So I didn't have much of a game plan per se. I was like, well, obviously I'm a screenwriter, so I want to take a script and put it into a contest, or I want to get inside of a writer's room, or I want to, and truth be told, the writer I am today was not who I was 8 years ago. So it speaks to that. Like, I came out here, you got punched in the mouth, you got nose, or, try again next year. And then you have a reality check. Okay, do I stick it out, or do I go back home because things aren't working right now? Right. So my game plan was to expect the unexpected. Right. Just move, be an artist, find a way to create opportunities, be in the room, network. Speaking of opportunities, somebody's calling me right now about an opportunity. I haven't talked to her in a minute, but this is,
I was like, I thought I put my phone on vibrate.
Yeah, that was my phone. Sorry about that.
I'm like,
I put it on vibrate.
my phone?
Okay. But yeah, like,
No, I said I thought I put my phone on vibrate. I was like, I thought I put my phone on vibrate.
Yeah, that was definitely me.
Okay.
But Yeah, so like the game plan, I wouldn't say backfired, but you have to know when to pivot. And I keep looking at my life like that. Like
Hmm.
there's a dance that you're playing with time, and you
Hmm.
have to dance with it appropriately. You can't rush it when it wants you to sit down and learn something, and you can't learn when you're supposed to be in motion.
Hmm.
So some of the things that I thought about that could have happened back then, I wasn't ready for it.
Hmm.
So I had to continue to learn, get experience, be around people, learn the craft, learn the different levels of the craft. Even if I haven't reached that level personally, I can still understand it, define it, call it for what it is, um, and just be a fan of screenwriting and let the writing process take its time because it's going to mature. You're going to get older. Time is going to pass regardless. So there's no need to be bitter or feel bad or anything like that. Just it wasn't my time back then. Now it is. So
Hmm. And you know what? You said something interesting. I was listening to the podcast you did with Hilliard the other day,
mhm.
and he spoke about maturity, and something you said kind of jarred that. You
Mhm.
said at the time I was not ready, and I'm not the screenwriter that I was 8 years ago. And I think that's where a lot of people run into problems because they want a certain thing and they want it right now. But are you ready for? I say this to people all the time. Are you prepared to get what you're asking for right now? And I look back on where I am now in my career. And when I'm talking to people, I say, 5 to 10 years ago, the things that are happening for me now, if they had happened then, I would have squandered the opportunity because I was not in the same place. So, as you
Yes.
said, everything happens for a reason. So, you're in LA, you're doing your thing, you're setting things up. So what was your first job when you finally kind of got yourself settled?
Honestly, I went back to serving. I work
Okay.
at a restaurant to this day. Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, Universal Studios. It's a
Nice.
tourist trap, volume crazy, but that was the job. And I had worked at a restaurant before back in Atlanta, so I had the restaurant experience. It gives you flexibility. It gives you the opportunity to set your own hours to a certain degree because you can always drop a shift and pick up a shift or whatever like that. But for the most part, I went back to what I knew based on flexibility. I'm not a 9 to 5 person. I never worked at a corporation for 6 years and had a 401k. I always thought that was the American dream that has eroded away with generations and things failing us from your pension plans, your social security, and all this bullshit. So I was like, well, there's no point in me doing that, right?
Mhm.
Even being in corporate America in entertainment, like working at Turner Studios or CNN, never was really appealing to me. I did have a few job interviews at like Cartoon Network and Turner Studios, but when I thought about it, even when I didn't get the job, I was like, I probably wouldn't want to be in here every day in general. Like, I'm just not a 9 to 5 person.
Mhm.
So, screenwriting coupled with serving, you have an opportunity to set your own hours. If I need to take days like this where I have the daytime to do my admin work, I can do that. It won't hurt my pockets, so on and so forth. Then also, I was an Uber driver, DoorDash delivery driver, on demand gig worker. Right. I've had a few PA gigs out here while I've been in LA, but most of the things that I've done has been just taking life and figuring out what can I squeeze out of it today.
Okay. Okay. Now that's interesting because when you talk about flexibility, I've been in public transportation, excuse me, for 30 years. And one of the things, the very few things that I liked about that job was the flexibility because you have different shifts. So when I was acting, I ended up having to work the midnight to 8 shift so I could, have my day free so I could go to New York to, audition. But then when I got on the producing side, it was more conducive for me to work, from 4 to 1 in the afternoon, which is what I'm doing now, which allows me to have basically the entire day to do. I heard this phrase, do your have to do job so you can end up doing your want to do job.
Mm-hmm.
So with me doing, driving for public transportation from 4:30 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon, that's the have to do that job because I got a wife, got a mortgage, got to take care, got to handle my business. But then from 1:30 on, the day is mine. So I can interview people like yourself. I can do whatever the hell I want. So I say all that to say, ladies and gentlemen, it ain't a damn thing wrong with working a 9 to 5 job when you chasing what you chasing, because it helps you. So I finance more stuff working a job, having a pension, having health care. So that's great that you have that flexibility. And it's interesting that you said you went back into service because, in my opinion, what you're doing, as far as customer service, but also in your writing, you're being a person of service because basically what you're doing is you're serving up stories. So talk about that. You're a writer. You started your own writing company. Why did you do that?
Well, we're in a strike. We're in the midst of a pivotal time in Hollywood, and it's either you sink or swim. And those that know how to swim will find a float and continue to ride this wave until Hollywood shuts down. But basically, you have to be your own boss. You have to find a way to be of service. If you have a skill set, how do you monetize that skill set? How do you build a brand around that skill set? How does that brand fit in your personal life, right? Because you can have a brand and then you can be a person outside of the entity. But all of these things came during the writer's strike because my ultimate vision at first was I want to be in the room, I want to work at BT, I want to work at whatever the fuck. And ultimately, we're on strike. And I would have been underpaid under the old terms. So that's always been a theme about my life as well. I know my value. I may not have it currently, but I know my value. And I think my weight is in gold. So whenever it's time for me to be evaluated or to have that moment where I can exchange my value for compensation, it's going to be on my terms. It's not going to be $20 an hour or $30 an hour. I can set my own rate. I have enough experience. And if you are very talented in what you do, somebody out there will pay value to have a piece of that knowledge that you have acquired. So if you don't go into business for yourself, you're going to give all that information to a machine that can replace you. So it's either you let that machine replace you or you become an entity that no matter the ups and downs, you find your way. Some people trade that time in and that management for the job and the salary. I just never thought that was appealing. So whether I'm in Georgia trying to be on set or green light situation or be out here doing it the way that I'm doing it, I've always understood that you have to know your value because the city, or should I say Hollywood, is going to try to undermine you. Like that's just their mode. They're going to try to pay you less and get more out of you. So I can negotiate and or leverage my weight by having clients, by having things on my side that shows my value.
Okay. So who do you consult for? New, intermediate, veteran writers. Who do you consult for within your writing service?
Honestly, I've consulted with all three. To be honest, I've consulted with all three. Who do I like to work with? Green writers, people who just have a good story. There's some people who think that they're a writer and they think they have a story, and they really just have a good premise, and they don't have a story fleshed out. And it makes me think about myself when I was at that point in my career as well. So, and then I deal with veteran writers who have written for BET or written for whatever show, and they just need a punch up, as we would say. So their stuff is okay or decent, but they want to make it stronger. So this year I worked with a social media influencer, and he was in that situation. He already has an audience. He's already trending. If I say his name, people will know. But he wanted to take his content and possibly put it in a TV format. So me and Geno came on to develop that, and they're still shopping that idea to date. So that's something that I do as well. It's like I'm kind of like a mercenary. I come in for hire. I work where you want me to work at, and then if you think that I'm valuable, once again, you'll pay me my value. So it's all good.
So do you notice that with veteran writers, as with veteran anything, you get in a groove? I won't say a rut. You get in a groove and you're used to doing things in a certain way, but then they call you up and they say, you know what, Chris, my work is tight. You could check my resume, but I need a tweak
Mm-hmm.
because it's missing something that I know can take it to that other place. But
Absolutely.
with that second part, have you ever run across someone with that particular scenario and you come in and you say, okay, well, you need to take this out, you need to put this in, and these are some of the things that you need to do? Have you ever gotten pushback from anyone when you gave that type of insight and feedback?
Yes. Yes, you will get pushback. And I always tell people, this is just an idea. You can take it or leave it. I leave with that. Or I leave with, this is supposed to be a collaborative thing, right? And in collaboration, you have to be willing to take on an opinion that may bump up against yours. Our goal together is to come up with best serves the story. Now, with that being said, we're not talking about me and you anymore. This isn't a personal shot, or I'm talking about how bad you're writing it. No, this is, does it serve the story? Now, you can argue what the story is, and that's where we can have a difference of opinion. Totally fine. But you brought me in to affect the story. And if you don't have a story, then I'm going to be the one to poke the holes in. If you do have a story and you want it to be told a particular stylistic way, then tell me how you want to pull it off stylistically, right? But don't try to argue because of a few things. A, this came from reality, and I know this person would act this way, and they would say, I don't care about that person. This person is John, the character. B, this is my baby. I've been working on this. I've had so many good people tell me good things about it. I don't know about, well, if you had that, then why are you hiring a script consultant, right? C, I have a vision that I want to go this route, this direction with this story. And basically, I don't want nobody to temper the vision, right? Or maybe I'm not seeing it clearly, so I always tell people to give me a point of reference. And if you give me a point of reference that's like, if it's too old or outdated, I'm going to let you know. Because we live in 2023. There's only so far back that you can go. However, there's only so many stories at the same time. So there's no real true stories that have came out of the blue and all of a sudden you're telling me a shocking story. So there's a balance of like, when you're collaborating, know that the person is very resourceful that you're talking to and probably knows a little bit more than you do. And then secondly, just let the chips fall where they may. Not everything that somebody tells me I'm going to agree with, but I'm going to let it kind of circle around in my mind because there's truth to what they're saying because it's from their perspective. So collaboration is key. Anybody that I'm talking to, I let them know, hey, obviously don't take it personal. But if you do choose to take it personal, let's go back to the story and the mechanics of the story. So we can agree on Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. We can agree on inciting incident, catalyst, cliffhanger, the principles, right? So if we agree on those, then let's stick back to that. And then when you start digging at people like that, then there's no room to give me kickback because we're talking about the story.
Right. So with that, do they ever, because it sounds like, and something I used to teach young filmmakers, even when I used to write and I used to, do plays and films, I was always the type of writer that I was never too married to what was on the page. Because I would sometimes when we would be on set filming or at a rehearsal and the actors are saying the lines, they would look and say, the character wouldn't say it that way. Now, some directors would, like, yo, say it the way I wrote it. I was always the type of person that would ask a question. I'm not necessarily going to rock out with what you're saying, but I need to know what would make you stop and say that. What is it? What is it that's not resonating with you? And I had that happen a couple of times. And I remember when I did my feature film years ago, and we were in an office setting, and the dudes looked at me like, Floyd, they wouldn't talk like that. So then I said, okay, well, then how would they talk? Roll camera. And they did the scene, and it was so much better. So do you find that if you talk to people and say, hey, why don't we just take a look at this and see what happens? Because you know what I've found, Christopher, that the character will tell you what they want.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen. So with that, do you recommend that screenwriters, when they write their script, do you recommend that screenwriters get script coverage before going to set to shoot?
All right. I recommend, it's a great question. Obviously, I had to ponder. Great question. Script coverage is a web of complication, because if you're getting script coverage from somebody that you don't know, I would take their feedback with a grain of salt, because they haven't read your production Bible. They don't know your characters. They're just giving you what they think your story is about. Now, it's up to you as a writer to be clear on the page. That's universal. But I would also give my script to somebody that I'm trusted with their opinion about my artistic journey, so that I can then ask questions that I know that they know is in the backstory, if that makes sense. Or they know that it's in the log line. And once again, the person that's just reading it, they may not be connected to it. A lot of script coverages out here in LA, or just in general, are paid for readers. They just get paid to read and give input, notes. Doesn't mean that they're right. Doesn't mean they even care about your project. Doesn't even mean that they connect with your world. It just means that they're paying their bills. So that's why I hesitated, because I thought that you needed screen coverage. And then when I started meeting readers and when I started getting coverage for projects myself, I was like, oh, I really don't need their opinion, but I do need a fresh set of eyes with a perspective that's close to the story. So I wouldn't give a nurse a script about an Army veteran movie. You're not going to give me the right feedback. It's not your world, right? I wouldn't give a doctor a show that takes place in an arena or football field. There are certain themes in there that may be similar, that's human to our experience. And that's why I say giving it to a trusted person can speak to those themes versus somebody that on the face look like they know what they're talking about. And they just give you notes from their perspective that is not connected with the world. Like if I'm writing an urban tale and I give it to somebody that doesn't understand the dialect, the first thing they're going to say is, hey, I don't know if those characters should talk like that. That's not the note that I want to hear, because obviously these characters talk like this for a reason. But if you haven't heard or you don't know, you're not tapped in, it makes that disconnect even more apparent. So I always say when you're consulting with people, make sure that you're consulting with somebody that is of a like mind, so that you're getting feedback from somebody that resonates with you in general. And then they will give you those story notes, not particularly, hey, what happened on page 5? I don't agree with. What happened with 17 is a little too fast. Those are all formatting notes, and that can be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah, and that's interesting that you talk about giving it to certain people and they say certain things, because I've talked to a lot of Black screenwriters, and they kind of the mind of like yourself, and they push back on script coverage, because they say sometimes when you send the script coverage out to be read, the person reading it has zero idea, and especially with us, because we have well, you know what, for all races, they have a particular vernacular, when we're talking amongst ourselves. So, we may say something and we sitting over there and we chopping it up. There you go, chopping it up. And somebody outside would be like, well, what the hell are they talking about? And I'll give you an example. Years ago, my wife and I went to see Remember the Zohan. And we're sitting in the theater, and it's these two Israeli gentlemen sitting in front of us. And Adam Sandler is on the screen doing his thing, and he's saying certain things, and these guys are cracking up. And me and my wife are like looking at each other. What's so funny? We did not understand it. It was a funny ass movie, but the nuances and some of the language, he would say a certain thing with us never having grown up and been in that culture. I couldn't connect with what they were busting. And I said, what the hell is so funny? But if we're watching a movie and we see mom come in and the daughter's sitting down and she got the hot straightening comb with the pomade, we're like, yo, I remember that because I remember my sister getting her hair done. So it's very interesting that, you said it about who you trust in with your work. But we're almost done. But I want to talk to you about how you got with Geno and the artistic standard, because that's a very good brother over there. He's high quality, and he just don't bring anybody on, to be in his thing. So how did that come about?
Man, so that is a interesting connection that lets you know that you're in the right place at the right time. So I went to a Christmas party at a manager's office out here in LA and ran into just somebody kind of pitching myself. And she recommended that I meet Geno. So I didn't even meet Geno directly. It was through a mutual friend of ours. Then once I was introduced to him, and once again, we started spilling into like what he had lined up for this upcoming year. This is back in 2015. He had just came off of the success of Black Boots. He was doing Journey of a Goddess and Logan and a few other projects, Mind of a Single Male. So he had basically a digital library of content. And I told myself, well, if I move out here to LA, it'll be lovely for me to work with somebody that looks like me and has original content. So that's 2 and 2 right there. That kind of apprenticeship turned into, now I serve as a producer and standing executive with the company just through hard work and showing up. You know what I mean? Like we would go get lunch on every Tuesday at the NBC lot. He had an assistant job to a big name producer over there, Virgil Williams, who did Mudbound. And while he was an executive assistant over there for Virgil, we would meet up for lunch and just brainstorm ideas, spitball, talk about whatever's going on. And that friendship led to, me giving him some of my personal work. And then we had an option deal on the table for something else that we had co-written together. So all these things just happened just by showing up. Now, this is once again me living in California. There's no way in hell I could have flown out for a weekend, met him once, and then tried to foster this type of relationship if I didn't live here. So that's why you have to sacrifice, friends or family or life events that I'm missing, clearly, being so far away from home. However, they all know why I'm doing it. I'm not narcissistic in that approach. And, that's how I got to meet Geno. And then Miles is another good friend of mine. That's his business partner. And me and Miles go back to Atlanta on some, just elementary school, knowing each other from there.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Stone Mountain is a very small place. So if you're doing it and when I say it, if you're in the arts at a high level and you come from that background, even though I didn't go to high school in that area technically, I grew up in that area, and I went to the elementary school in that area, and I know a lot of faces from like 12, 15 years ago. So that's how it goes. You know what I mean? That's when I say timing is everything.
Mhm.
Timing is everything, and moving out of your comfort zone at the right time is like a magical event that opened up this whole other West Coast portal that I come out here and I'm like, oh shit, I know this person, that person, that person. So yeah, that's how I got to meet Geno, and then from there, I came on as an executive to develop the Bear the Torch mentorship program
Mhm.
and a few other writing rooms that we created to simulate the industry standard of writing in a writer's room. A lot of things that happens at the artistic standard is our approach to networking horizontally and not vertically. Not always looking up to your whoever the hell and networking with people around you, because we are Hollywood. Hollywood needs to change the narrative of it's just six old men in suits making millions of dollars. That's not Hollywood. That's commercial Hollywood, right? But that's not Hollywood in itself. Hollywood in itself is the collective minds of individuals and company-backed creators pushing out content on a slate-by-slate basis. Right now, Hollywood is shut down. Hollywood as a creative space will continue to move, though. There will always be something to a certain degree, even if it's on an independent, unrepped stance, you're still doing it, right? Because you can't stop that creative muscle. And I really do think that by working with Geno and by working with the collaborative minds that have been over there, Akia McKnight, Carol Copeland, Vivian Payton, of course, Miles, Maureen Pierre, excuse me, I'm butchering names right now. Just a whole bunch of other producers that I've worked with that have been extensions of my personal West Coast family. We've made some great content. We've made some good, high quality content, like you just mentioned. Have been selected in a few film festivals, like the Michelle Film Festival, Martha's Vineyard Film Festival. It's been a good ride. It's like culminating at the right time. So all of that 8 years of working and grinding and showing up and not getting paid and trying to find, a position on the set to now running the set or financially putting investments into the set so that it can be finished is the total package.
Mhm.
So that's where I'm at now. And now to the next level is mentoring. Once you've done some things and you feel like, okay, I have a network situation on the table. Since networks are shut down, how do I continue to thrive? You have to thrive by, in my opinion, and what I'm doing is giving back. So you extend a mentorship program to 11th and 12th graders, and you find a way to nurture the next group of voices. Even if they're all not screenwriters, if you're a writer for hobby or for career, you still need certain gems in order to keep you going. So that's what I'm doing with the We See Y'all program. My mentorship is called Do the Right Thing mentorship program. And it's a collaboration with Elise Woodson's foundation. And it's based out of here in LA. And we're speaking to about 6 to 7 teenagers that are just graduated from high school. And their 900-word narrative, we're going to turn into a live performance. I want to say the second week of August. So I'm curating that event as we speak. I'm going to have dancers there, a drummer, live stream, and just let people know that even adults or kids, there's a safe space to create creative writing and short stories, snapshots of creativity. So that's what we're doing, man.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. So then how did you meet the wonderful Mr. Hilliard? Yes, how did that happen?
Yeah, the strike, the blessing in disguise. Once again, you got to show up and be out there. So I go out there. Me and my good friend Cam Talbot, we go out there. I met Cam through a writers group. Him and Brianna Seamster, I was their mentor through another writers group. And yeah, it's like the longer that you stay here, the more you feel connected to the community of writers.
Mm-hmm.
You start meeting different people. And I bumped into Hilliard one too many times. And I was like, yo, I need to know who you are. Obviously, you're somebody to know.
Mm-hmm.
And It's just a genuine conversation. You know, he invited me down to his office, and now it's like a mentorship situation. I can go get coffee with him and say, "Hey, how's your week looking? You know, let's workshop ideas." And that's the most important thing, is that you need somebody that you can trust their professional opinion to keep you afloat in this thing called, not Hollywood, the arts. This is beyond Hollywood, right? Every industry, whether you're in illustration, a carpenter, building set designs, you still need a mentor that has done and or been where you're trying to go. And that can save the time that it takes for you to fumble around in the dark. You can just call that person and ask them genuine questions. And that's how majority of my relationships, if they turn into, you know, hey, let's meet up for coffee. And I have other people that I meet with too. It's just those are at the top two right now. But at the end of the day, it's like there's a real thing, and there's something that we can both build together to give to the masses. So I take his advice, you know, when it comes down to production. I take his advice when it comes down to looking at story. And yeah, we just workshop ideas and then go home feeling inspired to show back up to the writer's strike or show back up at another event and just stay relevant, stay a part of this muscle that is the writing community. It's flexing itself every day. It's contracting. It's expanding. It's doing exactly what it should do. It's a living, breathing community. So I'm proud to be a part of it. I'm proud to know several great individuals, Deontay Stats. Once again, this is where we're name dropping. I don't want to do that.
No,
but
that's fine.
I'm in the community, and More Scripts is a part of that community as well.
Well, you know what? It is amazing, as you said, having mentors. But here's the thing with people that mentor people. They have to know that the person they're mentoring is going to do the work. Because if you are not going to do the work, you get dropped like a hot potato. Because I'm a mentor in Cheryl Bedford's program. I don't know if you know Cheryl Bedford.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to give a quick plug. Women of Color Unite.
Yes, sir.
Is one of our co-parents and co-partners at the Artistic Standard for the Bear the Torch Mentorship Program.
Beautiful.
So yes, big shouts out to Ms. Bedford. Yes, she's phenomenal.
Amazing. And you know, when she graciously, you know, offered to, you know, have me be a mentor, first of all, I was like, wow, who, me? Oh, damn, thank you so much. Yes. But then when I got my group of young ladies, and they were absolutely amazing, but all of them did not show the same initiative. And I work a full-time job, plus I work 2 full-time jobs. I work the art thing more than I work my full-time job. So this is no joke. This is 365, 24/7 for me. So if I'm putting in that kind of work, I need you to show up. I need you to show up. So when you're talking about mentoring people, the people that are giving of their time, and when you talk about a Geno and you talk about a Hilliard, the things that they're imparting to yourself and other people, if we go into the money thing, that's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of knowledge. That if you were to pay them to sit in the classroom with people, if they were to actually pay for that, they're going to drop some money. So the fact that they say, you know what, Chris, we're going to mentor you, it's because they understand that you're going to take care of that mentoring, that you're going to actually use it and internalize it and do what you need to do with it. You see what I'm saying? Because those 2 brothers I highly respect, because they know what the hell they're talking about. You know, they know exactly what they're talking about. So, you know, if anyone that is listening now or will be listening in the future, if that's something that you plan on doing as far as mentorship, if you're out in Los Angeles and, you know, you're an aspiring screenwriter, or if you're just someone who does poetry or anything like that, you know, look Chris up. But here's the thing. Before you do that, make sure that you're ready to do the work. Please make sure you're ready to do the work, because you only get one shot. You only get one shot. Talk about
Absolutely,
that real quick. I know we was about to roll up out of here, but
no, we're fine. I'm chilling.
Talk about how it is so important to build a relationship the right way, but more importantly, when someone gives you their time, which is the one thing you can never get back. That's why I don't waste too much of it anymore. What's that like when you get someone, and especially someone that has potential, and you see it, but for some reason they just ain't willing to put in that work?
Well, that's a severe question, because if you see talent but they don't want to work, I can't do nothing about that. I've had to back away from situations. I've had to save my time, because at the end of the day, I love you. You're creative, whatever those soft words are. But if you don't want to put in the work, I can't write the script for you. If you don't want to take the notes and do something different, I can't write the script for you. Lastly, if you don't understand that this is a business, you're not going to make it anywhere. Making it is such a subjective term that people think that because you're on set, you made it. No, we have to finish the movie. Then we have to turn it in. Then we have to make sure the contracts and paperwork will probably be settled on the front end of the conversation, not the back end. So there's so much business that gets dropped because people want to be living in the moment, and they want to say that they made it because they're on set, or they made it because they're in the editing bay. This is also something that I kind of like came to understand. Business and creative rarely share the same personality. Meaning, most people who are business oriented only draw stick figures, and people who are creative can barely read a contract. So I want to be the happy hybrid. You know, I like to think that I'm creative. To play an instrument and screenwrite in itself is creative. So, okay, the first 20-some years of my life, I worked on doing that, and I got it down to somewhat of a science, because I'm still learning. There's area for me to grow, but overall, I'm passing in both careers. The career that I'm failing at is business. And not like failing like I can never recover and I'm bankrupt and nothing like that. But if I had to say room for improvement, it would be business. And if they say that this is a show business, you have to pay attention to the business side. And I just have seen this overwhelmingly be a part of the creative conversation. Business is kind of last. And it should never be last. You should never create something and then create the paperwork after it. You should set your terms and agreements up front. You should write your whatever the hell you want on the back end up front. If you choose not to take money, or if you choose to disclose that information, whatever, up front. But there's no class on business etiquette as a creative, unless you're at the upper echelons and you have to bump your head first still to figure out what was right or what was wrong. So it's like being a creative, you're moving being a creative, you're moving in a dark room, and the contract has knives on it. And you don't know if you're signing your life away or if you're just pricking because you just got stuck and you're going to be fine. You know what I mean? Like, I could put a Band-Aid over this, right? No, that was blood oath. Oh, shit, blood oath. No. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what creatives do. Like, they don't really know it till it's too late. And then by the time you find out your best years, you don't own. Ownership is everything. Even with me and Geno, that's one thing we made a real conversation about. Ownership, licensing, your IP, your leverage. How do you leverage that in conversations? How do you go create content outside of the deal and use that as leverage? How do you generate an audience and use that as leverage? All these different things are why the show business conversation needs to be 80% business, 20% creative. Because once we get the business down, then I can be as creatively free as I want to be. But I would hate to be as creatively free as I want to be, but then I'm shackled to only 10 foot of rope or 10 inches of rope, depending on how you look at it. So if you don't have your business in order, find a mentor that you can go trust and confide in, Or if you don't trust anybody, be a really, really, really good reader when it comes down to paperwork. And have your paperwork in order, preferably before you get on set. So everybody knows their role. We all do our job and we go home.
Yeah, that's a word right there, brother. You just basically quoted my entire doctrine because there's something, and I'm gonna say it. This is how I normally end my show. Love this like a hobby, but treat it like a business. I end every show that way because, as you said, creatives want to create. But when I'm talking to creatives, this is what I say to them. You are an entrepreneur, you are a sole proprietor, you are the business, you are the brand. And they were like, well, what are you talking about? I said, what are you doing? I'm making a film. What is that? What do you mean? It's a film. Yes. And what else is it? What? It's a product. What are you doing with that product? Do you want someone to see it? Yes. Do you want someone to pay for it? Yes. You're taking that product to market. Who do you want to market that product to? What are you talking about? You want to take that product to market? You want to make money off of it? You want to market it to consumers. They're consuming what? Your goods. Where they're not actually eating it, they're visually consuming your product. So if you are not looking at your film as a visual product that you are taking to market, distribution, it's no different than putting bread on the shelves. You're trying to find the right market to put it in. So in order to do that, before you roll camera, you better have all your shit in a row. There's a phenomenal lady by the name of Angela White. She runs Silver Lining Productions, and she says you should have distribution and everything else handled before you get on set, before you roll camera. She said the worst thing that you can do is basically what you just said, is start talking about that in the middle of production or in post-production. By then it's too late because now you're playing catch up. So when I talk to filmmakers about you have to have the mindset of this is business. And this is one of the reasons why I recommend that if you are in this business as a filmmaker or a writer or whatever, the best thing that you can do for yourself is listen to and follow people that ain't got shit to do with filmmaking. Look at successful business people and how they run their companies, and then model whatever it is you're doing after that on a smaller scale. You're not Jeff Bezos, but you can model some of the practices that he has at Amazon in your film company. See that company? If you're an LLC, again, it's you are taking a product to market. Now, if you're just doing this as a hobby, knock yourself out. But if your goal is to make a living at this, then what you need to do is take the time, get on YouTube, listen to some podcasts, and just learn how business is done and follow successful business people. Again, real estate moguls, banking moguls. I listen to people like Ray Dalio, Ed Milet, Eric Thomas, John Maxwell. They don't have anything to do with film, but guess what they are, ladies and gentlemen? They're multimillionaires and billionaires. So they know how to run a business, which you are. And so many creatives get stuck in that. They don't, well, did you hire an entertainment lawyer? Why? Are you trying to get distribution, sir? Ma'am? Yes. Who's going to read that contract? Who will read the contract? And don't go get a music attorney for a film contract. Do you have someone that specializes in film distribution? Because the language is different. You look up 10 years from now, you don't owe your film. They done took all your damn money and advertising fees and every damn thing else. They take, and you sitting there like, oh, wow. That's my rant. That's my rant. So
yeah, that's it. No, seriously, that's why I say creative and business don't occupy the same personality. And I really do understand that, because there are some people that I love creatively, but they have zero business understanding, or they put it off, or they sideline it, or it becomes a layered conversation. It's like, well, is it layered or is it just honesty? Because you can be honest with me without the layers, right? But there's a way to just get to the point so that we can get the deal done. Now, you always want to negotiate, so never just sign anything for the hell of signing. And like you said, Ray Dalio, I have his book over here, Principles, and the 48 Laws of Power, and Think and Grow Rich, and all these other books, right, that sit on my shelf that exactly. So,
a lot of them say got nothing to do with making films.
Zero to do with making films, but it has everything to do with strategy. And everybody who is good use strategy. They're not accidentally good. There's no accidents in this thing called Hollywood and hip hop and entertainment at large. Honestly, it's probably more manipulated than we like to believe. That's a whole nother conversation. So, when I saw the misfortunes that I have had to me, the misfortunes that happened to me while making music and seeing the missed opportunities, I had to correct it doing it this way. This way, I can do it personally as a sole proprietor. When you're in a group, you have to kind of do it like the majority wins, or you have to just wait for you to kind of outsell the the record label's expectation. So all of these things, you just have to learn sooner than later, because if you find out later, it can really be the worst thing that can happen. And I'll say this too, honestly, even some of my favorite rappers and artists that I followed the entire 20 years since the 99 to 2000 coming out like, yeah, we don't own none of that. And it's like, damn, 20 some years later, you find out that I really shouldn't even be supporting this song, because the artist who I thought was living off of it is getting zero publishing. So it really is a crooked game that's designed to work against the best interests of the artist. And it's up for the artist to find their value and negotiate that at the table.
Yeah, there's this phenomenal entertainment lawyer, Jaylene Mack,
Yeah,
out of
shouts out to Jaylene. Yes.
Jaylene. And what is the name of her book? Because she did 10 tips. She did 10 business tips a few days ago on Instagram, and the videos went crazy. So I actually shared, oh man, I can't find her book. I shared the reels on my page, and one of them got 8,000 views. The other one got about 3,000 views. But it doesn't take a lot to, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to do two things at once, but I can't find her book. Hold on for a second. Let me do this really quickly. Okay. Her book is called, shout out to Jaylene Mack, The Business of Stage, Screen, and In Between. She is absolutely amazing. I'm gonna say that one more time. Jaylene Mack, entertainment lawyer out of Houston, Texas. I hope I got that part right. If I didn't, Jaylene, sorry. The Business of Stage, Screen, and In Between. All right. Nobody's saying you got to go to Wharton Business School of Business. But you can follow someone like her on Instagram. You can subscribe to her page. You can pick her book up for $35 on Amazon and learn the basics of how to do business. But it's interesting that you said something about, we're in the music business and things weren't happening for you, and you kind of learned, some of the pitfalls, and now you're doing better, in film. It's all the learning process, because we're constantly learning. But it's a gentleman that I listen to, Ed Milet, and he has a saying, and I quote it all the time: things don't happen to you, they happen for you. So when you were going through your stuff in the music, that was basically preparing you to be a better business person, film wise. You understand what I'm saying? Because business is business, and some things are transferable. So doing good business is transferable, whether you making a rap or whether you making a film, it's transferable. And sometimes you got to go through the bullshit to get to the good shit. So relax, ladies and gentlemen. If things didn't work out, sometimes that's to teach you what not to do, because it's not a failure, as they say. It's never failure if you're learning from it. Because I saw a t-shirt, right. The guy says, I never fail, I always learn.
Absolutely.
So if you're learning, it wasn't failure, because I tell people, throw away what didn't work, keep what did work, and build on that.
Yeah.
So repetition. So yeah, absolutely. So what's next for you, Mr. Moore?
Well, like I said, man, it's been a very productive year. The writer strike is still happening, so I'm out there learning as much as I can. Meeting people that once again I would have had to pay to be in the same room. So until they give us or meet us at the table with the demands that we're asking for, which isn't a lot. I mean, the more and more I look at this shit, the more I'm like, yo, it's just American greed. It's nothing new, especially when you're trying to outsmart a labor worker. You think that they're just going to be fine with the crumbs that you give them, and that's just not going to work. So I personally foresee the writer's strike happening to the end of the year. It's going to put a lot of people in some messed up situations because we just got out of the pandemic. So there are some people who do not have the financial savings to last another 2 months. However, the only reason why I say that is because I know how crooked the elites are. So if elite people are millions of dollars ahead of you, just in personal savings, of trying to make it work because this deal was literally supposed to be struck in 2019 from people that I know. So at the end of the day, I'm going to continue to create the next big thing, work with actors or writers or directors who are possibly not repped. It's totally fine with me. I do hope to be repped at some point. So that is still my number one goal, to find a literary manager or an agent. So if you're out there and you find my content to be appealing, or if it fits your roster, please. But what's next is finishing
You know what?
out the We See Y'all
Repeat what
program.
you just. Hold on, Chris. Hold on for a
What's
second.
up?
Repeat what you just said after rep because you froze.
Oh, well, yeah. All I said was I'm still looking to be repped. So if there's anybody out there that is looking to sign or pick up a new addition to their roster, please email me. You can send it to chrismoore.prod, producer, short for producer, prod@gmail.com. Or you can find my website, moorescripts.com. I'm working on that as we speak. So yes, this year is rebranding. This year is taking another step into entrepreneurship. I'm working with the We See program, with the mentorship program, Do the Right Thing, working with a few creatives in Leimert Park who are college educated, seniors in high school, and looking to get their narrative in front of, first, a publication, because they're going to publish the book. And then secondly, we're going to turn it into a live performance. So that's the next thing that's coming up on the horizon. Outside of that, I do plan on writing and producing and directing my first short film this year as a concept trailer to a bigger universe that I'm building as a screenwriter. And then also you can find Legacy on allblack.tv/legacy. That's a short film that I EP'd featuring Osher Davis, Roy Williams Jr., and some other phenomenal talent in that piece. Is now streaming under the short film category. There's Legacy, Echoes, Dark Matter, Save a Life, Rivers Gold Mine, Gumbo, Fuck Your Turkey in the Straw, and
I gotta see that, man. I gotta see that. I gotta see that movie.
Right? It's all black. The last one I'm forgetting. Huh?
The title alone, fuck your turkey in the straw.
Fuck Your Turkey and Straw. I'll send it to you directly. The log line is basically the Ice Cream Man song that we know and love. It's called Turkey in the Straw. However, it has some very racial undertones in it. So we made a suspense thriller out of the definition of Turkey in the Straw.
Okay.
So that's where that title comes from. Echoes, Dark Matter, Gumbo, Save a Life, Rivers Gold, Monet, Legacy, all of it's uploaded on allblack.tv under the short film category. So I'm continue to promote that all year long and get people to watch it. We're supposed to be coming back with a year 3. We'll see what that looks like. And yeah, just other great things on the other side of the horizon, man. More Scripts is up and running, found it this year alone. Like I said, I realized that I'm more of a script consultant than I give myself credit for. People distinctly come to me for character development, plot development. So I decided to turn it into a true consultation service. So that's happened this year, and I have a few clients, and I'm excited for the future. Seriously, it's that's why I said the writer's strike. I'm not even phased by it, because yes, I'm out there. Yes, I understand people are losing jobs, but this, in my opinion, I'm such an entrepreneur shaped mindset. Just because 8 studios shut down does not mean we cannot work. That doesn't mean that Tubi doesn't need more content, or All Black doesn't need more content, or Freeform, or Pluto, or whatever platform that's independent of AMPTP. They still need content. I understand that a lot of people are SAG repped and they can't work. That's unfortunate, and we're out there marching and picketing for the quickest response possible. But in the meantime, you have to find a way to push your creative muscle. Because if you're waiting on somebody to feed you, they're going to continue to starve you. And that's just a real sentiment that I heard in the stock market. And I use that same sentiment in Hollywood. And we see it playing out literally before us. Like their greedy hands is not trying to reach back. And it's just a cold fact. I don't expect them to either. So I have to go create the demand for myself and at the same time create a service that will then keep me going. So more scripts.
Beautifully said. And you know what, bro? Look, people might not like it, but they acting like business people. Last man standing, woman standing wins. And if my business is better, if my shit is better than yours, I plan on being the last person standing. And that's how they treating it. You know, they're like, fuck, that ain't personal. It ain't personal. It's business.
It's just that, and that's why, man. That's it. That's everything.
That's it. They like, it ain't personal, baby. It's business. And you know, you're trying to disrupt my business, and we ain't trying to let that happen. And on the other side, the writers and the actors are like, well, y'all trying to F us up, and we ain't letting that happen. So at the moment, we're at an impasse. And whoever blinked first. So they, you know, it's gonna get ugly. I've been on some long strikes, brother. And you really have to just knuckle down, do the ramen soup thing, call your people up, be like, look, can you help me out with rent? Because, you know, being union as long as I have been, we understood that if we blink, it's over.
Yeah.
It'll
all be for nothing.
Yeah, it's over. So, you know, I'm always in solidarity, you know, with what's going on with union, because again, you know, man, I've been union for a long time, and I've been in a few strikes, man, and without paychecks, and you know, well, fuck, I can't pay these credit cards this month. The only thing I could do is basically pay the mortgage and put food in the refrigerator. Other than that, everybody else, y'all ain't getting no money this month. Y'all ain't getting no money for 2, 3, 4 months, and it's happened. But it is what it is. But you know what? At the end of the day, they know you're serious. You know, so they got to know you know, you guys are serious. But any parting words for any aspiring content creator or writer who's thinking about coming into this crazy thing of ours?
First of all, I want to say thank you for providing this platform. I find myself being humbled every time I'm able to think about my journey. So, you know, that conversation that we had briefly after the panel turned into this, and I know that it's going to turn into more opportunities. So I just want to say thank you, brother to brother. Like, we're in this together, seriously.
Yes,
if I had to say anything to somebody watching, it would be 2 things. First is you're valuable. Don't let any outside entity tell you you're valuable. You have to look in the mirror and find your value. So if you didn't hear today or yesterday, I'm telling you now, you are valuable. What that means is never settle for anything that you feel like you don't deserve. That feeling that you feel is coming from a higher place. That you doesn't make sense right now, but when you sit back in your quiet time, you reflect on it, like, oh, that's why I felt that way. Yeah. Follow that voice 98% of the time. That leads me to my second point, your voice. Everybody has a voice, and I'm not speaking on your speaking voice. Follow the voice that has threaded your life through the hard times, through the creative struggles, through the highs and lows. Follow that voice, and it should lead you to your destination, wherever that may be. If it's cross country, so be it. If it doesn't make sense to other people, usually that's the best place to go, because you don't want to always try to please everybody, right? It's the worst thing that you could be, is a people pleaser. So realize you have a voice. Speak loudly with confidence about the things that you want to do or the desires you wish to acquire or hold or have whatever that looks like for you, however you want to land. Make sure you hold on to that voice for the rest of your life. Because once again, we live in a world that's going to try to minimize you or tell you, yeah, that little idea that you have, you'll get to it eventually. Or that little hobby that you're working on, you'll get to it eventually. Your voice is what's going to project you across all of that. So know your voice and know your value. Those two V's I live on the day-to-day. Value and your voice. Once you find those two things, this world becomes that much smaller in your priorities of what other people think you should be doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, words of wisdom from a good brother, Christopher D. Moore of More Scripts, LLC. If you need someone that's going, really look at your stuff and not just give you the surface note, but going to do a deep dive, give his brother a call, follow him on. Wait. Well, what's your Instagram?
Of course. So my personal Instagram is Chris Moore, one word, .atla. So I couldn't finish Atlanta, so I just put ATLA. So that's my personal page. But if you want to find me for More Scripts, it's literally on all platforms: TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook is my personal. But on those 4 platforms, at More, Moore Scripts, More Scripts, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, find me there. And awesome. Personal pages is Chris D. Moore. All right.
Beautiful.
IMDb Chris D. Moore as well.
Awesome.
It's been a pleasure. I am continuing to progress at God's speed, being grateful one day at a time. So for all those that want to find me, I'm at all those channels. I'm still uploading my website. I'm still uploading my YouTube, like all the stuff that I've been a part of from the strike. I try to make a mission to go out there at least twice a week.
Okay.
And if I don't go twice a week, then I'll go once, and then I'll do 3 times in another. But I've been out there since the writers, and the writers started all this. The writers' strike back in May started all this. So I've been at every studio but Fox. That's the only studio I have not been to. So I'm gonna make my rounds out there. But Warner Brothers, Paramount, we're there. CBS Studios, Radford, Culver City, Sony, Amazon. It's been a very, very interesting networking experience, but then also lets you know that behind all of this, we're all equal, right? Like, it doesn't matter which show you used to work on or if you wrote one episode for whoever the hell, we're all still writers fighting for our true value. So that in itself, you can't pay for that type of networking or that type of experience. You just have to be here during this pivotal time right now that's happening in Los Angeles and New York. So I'll see you out there on the picket line. Continue to watch the content through More Scripts on all platforms. And if you want to follow me personally, Chris D. Moore on Facebook, Instagram, IMDb, more content on the way.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Moore, conversation with. Thank you so much for joining us. Follow the podcast on all streaming platforms. Give it a subscribe on Apple, and hey, do us a favor. Leave a comment. If you like the show, leave a comment. But more importantly, share this with your friends in the industry, because you guys, as they like to say on Clubhouse, we just heard some gems here today, dropped some gems. So that's always a good thing. And, again, this is how I always end my show. Love this like a hobby, but above all else, treat this like a business, because that is exactly what this is. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, everyone have an absolutely phenomenal night. And as my mentor, Tanya Kersey, would say, to your success. Peace.
There it is. Perfect.